Hundreds of students were trapped inside and, whenever possible, made a dash for exits, sprinting across school grounds.
Two suspects, apparently students themselves, opened fire.
The tragic memories students entering school Monday must face.
Good evening. 13 WREX and the Rockford Register-Star welcome you to this first ever community forum, Reality Check Violence in Our Schools. We want to thank the Northern Illinois University Education Center for providing the auditorium for tonight's program. We have organized this forum because aside from new clothes, notebooks, and pencils, parents need to also supply their children with a good amount of caution and care for the school year to come. It's been only 4 short months since 2 student gunmen in a quiet Denver suburb shot and killed classmates and a teacher, putting an exclamation point on a string of school violence that has had all of us shaking our heads and saying to ourselves, like I'm sure the folks of Littleton, Colorado did, it could never happen here. The odds, ladies and gentlemen, are against us. While a recently released study shows fewer guns being found on campus, another says most teenagers believe violence is the biggest problem facing the country, and clearly 2/3 of the nation's 14 to 18-year-olds don't feel safe in their own schools. A fear that might not be unwarranted when you consider in the last 5 years there have been 113 school shootings in the United States, resulting in 148 fatalities. Tonight, assisted by our panel of invited experts, we hope to dissect the issue of violence in our schools, examine the scope of the problem, as well as outline possible solutions and steps each one of us has to take to make our classrooms safer. It's now my pleasure to introduce our panel. From your left to right, Richard Sens, Belvedere Superintendent of Schools. Candace Berryman, a junior at Harlem High School. Dave Rossi, principal at Rockford's Eisenhower Middle School. Sergeant Dave Hooks, school liaison, Rockford Police Department. Nancy Kelchbrenner, president, Rockford Parent Council. Justin Berry, senior, Auburn High School. And Mike Noble, director of pupil services for the Freeport School District. I'd also like to welcome distinguished members of our audience, including Rockford Mayor Charles Box and Rockford Police Chief Jeff Nielsen. Now, during the course of our discussions, we may invite our guests to participate in tonight's forum, those in the audience. We've also asked those in the audience to provide questions to our panel, and we hope to get to most of them over the next hour as well. Let's begin. First of all, defining the issue of violence, and we will begin with Sergeant Dave Hooks, who is the school liaison of the Rockford Police Department. Sergeant, obviously, when we see an incident like what happened in Littleton, Colorado in April, that is a definite sign of violence on campus. What, for you and your officers who patrol Rockford Public Schools, constitutes a violent act?
Mike, I'd have to say that simply defined, violence would be any type of act that could bring harm or danger to a student or staff at a school in any manner.
So that would be anything from what we've seen in the news recently to as minor as what?
A battery, one student striking another or a staff member.
In your estimation at this point, do you think everybody understands what a violent act is? Those who are not only teaching in the schools, but the students attending?
Yes, very well. The schools have done a very good job at educating the students as to what is and is not tolerated within the school itself and on the school grounds. They're aware of what the rules and consequences are.
Mike Noble, Director of Pupil Services for Freeport Schools, let me ask you what you, as part of your responsibilities, are responsible for overseeing discipline in Freeport Schools. In your estimation or in your experience, what have you seen as far as violence on campuses there?
Most of our violent acts are student against student, and it comes from oftentimes from poor peer relationships. boyfriend, girlfriend starts off something like that and then leads to something else. A lot of kids, quick reaction. And then they get back and then they have some, they think back and say, you know, that wasn't the right thing to do. But a lot of it is just a quick reaction to a small problem, and they see that as a way to go and complete the problem.
In the 9 years you've been in your position, you've seen a lot of changes, correct?
A lot of changes in discipline, a lot of changes in security. A lot of education for students to get an understanding early of what violence is all about and how they can better be prepared to deal with it and to mediate their problems.
Let's bring the students into the discussion. Candace Berryman, junior from Harlem High School. What have you seen as far as your experience in the 3 years that you've been at Harlem, as far as acts of that you would consider pure acts of violence?
Most of it I see is, like the one gentleman said, was this courtship's gone wrong. People aren't thinking to the point where they just act in the fight. They're just not thinking through their actions, and they just defend themselves that way.
Basically, how are the students reacting on campus in regard to other acts of violence that they see happening at other schools around the country?
It disturbs a lot of the students. We discuss it in class about what we could do, how we can protect our school, how we can make changes. I think it helps us know that, you know, we're all aware of it. You know, even with our whole remodeling, our school, we're making it harder for people to get in without checking in. Everyone knows who's coming in and out. We don't have metal detectors, but it's fine. But I think students, I think we feel overall safe, but it deeply disturbs students at school.
Justin Berry from Auburn High School, do you think students understand the definition of violence as it's been presented here this evening? That when it comes to confronting another student or confronting a classmate, that constitutes a violent act?
Yes, most students do recognize the definition of violence, and they do understand that when they do act against either another student or a staff member of the school, that it is an act of violence.
Do the students who attend Auburn High School see the violence strictly occurring just within the campus themselves, or do they see influences coming from outside?
That would have to. I think it's coming in from the outside, because the school is well run. We don't participate in violence. We don't let it stretch out and unfold in the school to where it's uncontrollable. We control the violence in the school, and it has to come from the outside.
So you think it's an outside influence rather than the students that are already on campus?
Yes.
Nancy Kelchbrenner, president of the Rockford Parent Council. From a parent's perspective, you have students in the school system. How do you perceive this problem of violence? I mean, do you feel as though your children understand what it's all about?
I do, and I think that the school district has worked quite hard in developing a discipline code that is throughout the district and asking people to go over that as a family. And it comes down to the same kind of issues that affect our achievement in education, that the parental involvement is a very important part of the whole puzzle, and that's going to vary from family to family. And it's a concern, and I feel that the school district has been addressing it, and we need to continue making sure that the families are involved in the whole process.
Richard Senn, superintendent of Belvedere Schools. Can we compare apples to apples when we're talking about school districts, the size of Rockford compared to Belvedere, or school districts the size of Chicago compared to other districts when it comes to this problem?
My only association with school districts has been with schools of 5 to 10,000 in student population. I believe that all individuals who work in the schools and those individuals in the community want a safe environment for teaching and learning in each one of the schools. And I believe that we strive for that. I think it's more difficult as the student population increases and the size of the city is bigger.
And how is Belvedere addressing that problem as their district continues to grow?
Well, you know, right now we feel that we have a very safe environment for both teaching and learning. Some of our concerns are in 3 general areas. The intruder that would come into the building unannounced, threats to the general population in the building, such as a bomb threat, and then student behavior that may get out of control in the building. So we're trying to address all 3 of those areas, and we're also trying to have excellent communication with our parents and with our community.
So I don't leave anybody out of the discussion. Dave Rossi, principal at Rockford's Eisenhower Middle School. A lot of people look at the violence issue as being something that matures with the student themselves. Are you seeing at the middle school level violent behavior, a frustration level among students of that age that perhaps became fostered at a grade school level and has just been led to manifest itself?
That's a tough question to ask when you're talking about middle school students. Middle school students in themselves are going through a lot of changes as far as what they're about and what the world around them is about. So they carry with them a lot of issues when they come to middle school. I can't say that the violence we're seeing is a result of things that might have happened in elementary school. I think it's more of a society type thing entering our buildings. Whatever happens in our communities is going to happen in our schools. And that's more of what I'm seeing versus things created in elementary schools coming to the middle schools.
We've somewhat defined the problem. There's still more discussion to take place in regard to this subject matter, but we'd also like to assess the problem. We'll touch upon that when our reality check, Violence in Our Schools, continues right after this.
Your limits, the right gear is essential. Celebrate your exhilaration in a new Ford Ranger. Now, during the Ford Authorized Clearance, get 0.9% financing plus $500 cash back on every '99 Ranger, or choose $1,000 cash back. Your choice, and all within reach. I just wanna celebrate. Celebrate your way in a Ranger during the Ford Authorized Clearance at your local Ford store.
This Friday, starting at 8 a.m., all Kohl's stores are having a grand opening sale to celebrate the opening of our newest Kohl's stores. Save on your favorite brands of denim and khaki. Save on all women's coordinates. Save on all kids' name brand playwear and on all kids' shoes. Save on all picture frames. Save on all your favorite brands. And get bonus buys through Monday at Kohl's grand opening sale starting Friday at 8 a.m. Kohl's.
I know a great new place. I'm in the mood for fantastic food with a mesquite Southwest taste. We can laugh and have a big time. Everyone is here. Friends and fun is what we need right here in Tumbleweed.
There's a great new place in town where all the fun and unique flavors of the old Southwest are alive and kicking.
Friends and fun is what we need.
East State Street near Circuit City.
Value House Carpet One is having their biggest laminate sale of the year. That means the best prices of the year on long-wearing durable laminates like Wilson Out, just $309 a square foot, and super tough, easy to care for Pergo Living, just $289 a square foot, with no interest or payments for 6 months. We've got carpet specials too, like 2 rooms of carpet completely installed for just $399. You save up to 50%.
Nobody does it better.
During our biggest laminate sale of the year. The savings are hot at Value House Carpet One.
Welcome back to this 13 WREX and Rockford Register-Star special reality check, violence in our schools. In this segment, we will assess the problem of violence in our schools and be asking questions of our panel as well as taking questions from the audience. Let's first begin with Sergeant Dave Hooks, school liaison with the Rockford Police Department. Sergeant, you oversee all the officers who patrol Rockford schools. What do you tell them to look for?
We tell them to, one of the things we do that's so important is most of the officers work in the same buildings day after day, and even with 1,600 students at the high school or middle schools, they become very familiar with who their students are and who don't belong. So when that individual walks into school and they can see down the hallway, that's not one of my students, they know to react, to take them to the office or to investigate who they are, and also to be aware of their surroundings and anything suspicious or brought into the school that could be suspicious.
Is it somewhat like walking a beat for the officers, only it's a very concentrated one?
It's very much like working in the community services programs that we offer for the community, being aware of your surroundings and bringing information to the students that are in the school there and developing a dialect with those students so they bring information to you, keep you informed of what's going on.
As I mentioned, we have solicited some questions from the audience, some that have been written down ahead of time, and Ann Johnsos has one of our questioners. Ann?
Mike, I'm here with Trooper Brad Flores, who has got several questions. He certainly knows about law enforcement and has questions about the way we enforce the laws and safety in schools. Brad?
My first question would be for the superintendent from Belvedere. You mentioned the three areas that you're most concerned with your bomb threats, armed, a violent act, and then the intruder. Has your school or your staff formed a committee and come up with any response plans for those particular areas?
We've had a plan in place for a number of years, and because of information that we've received from the School Board Association and the State Board of Education, we've updated that plan recently. And yes, all three of those areas are covered in our plan.
And also for the Rockford schools, do you believe the Rockford schools are safe at this time, or is there more to do?
I think the person who could best address that question is Jim Jennings, who is Director of Communication for the Rockford School District, who's with us this evening. Jim?
The Rockford Public Schools are some of the safest places in this community. When you look at the fact that every day we bring over 27,000 students into our schools, educate them and take them home, and bring in over 4,000 staff members, that's a tremendous number of people in confined spaces. And when you look at the small number of incidents that occur based upon over 30,000 people, they're much safer than you'd find in the community, much safer than you'd find anywhere else. And that's because of the relationships and the communication that occur between students, staff, parents, the police department, and the school administrators in the school district.
Mike, back to you.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Jim, for being here. While we're talking about assessing the problem and looking at it from a police point of view and an administrator's point of view, I have to go back to Sergeant Hooks. Just yesterday, a neighboring community, Williams Bay, Wisconsin, had a drill in which they put on an actual school shooting incident to train their officers and to train personnel within the school as to how to handle such a situation. You think something would be of benefit in local school districts?
It's certainly something that you could think of. It's hard to come up with an answer for that. One thing I might say, in looking at the violent incidents that have occurred in our nation, it's very difficult to plan for a well-orchestrated, premeditated act of violence. All you can do is be prepared to handle that situation, which I'm very confident the Rockford Police Department is.
And to add to that,
sure.
The Rockford Public Schools, the administrative team, they met at our annual summer retreat just recently. And one of the things we will be doing is conducting actual practices of our crisis plans to make sure that they are workable. It's one thing to have a plan on paper and it looks real good, but to actually put it into practice and see where the holes are is something else. So I know the superintendent of schools has ordered each school to conduct a actual practice of their plan to make sure it works the way it's supposed to.
I'd be remiss if we didn't get the other school district involved in this. Mike Noble from Freeport.
Yes, What we're doing right now is working real closely with our police department and their crisis team. And what we'll be doing is having them come into our buildings in the evening or on weekends, and they will conduct some drills. So they're going to be very aware of all the nooks and crannies, if you will, of our schools. And so they're be able to better be prepared to deal with intruders if that's the case. They get a better understanding of where those intruders might be hiding and where other people might be hiding. So I think that's a very good step in the right direction for us.
Thank you, Mike. We have another question from our audience, and for that we go to Eric Wilson. Eric?
Mike, this person submitted this question but chose not to give their name, so this really isn't addressed to any panel member in particular, but the question reads, how will a closed campus ensure the safety of students, and how will it be monitored and enforced? Mike?
Who would like to address that question? Are there closed campuses in Belvedere or Freeport?
We have a closed campus in all our schools.
In Freeport, we're not closed at the high school. Junior high is closed.
Richard, would you like to address that?
Yes, we're making some changes over the next year. All of our buildings will go on lockdown, meaning that once school begins in the school day, all of the doors will be locked, and there will be one main entrance in each building that will have a camera, and those individuals who visit our schools will have to announce themselves and get let into the building by a secretary. So that's how we're going to monitor those individuals that don't belong in our schools without permission.
If I may add a little bit to that, Freeport is a closed campus in the aspect that we don't allow our kids to go off campus, but they are allowed to go out onto the premises of the grounds, and so they are entering in and out during the noon hour, and so we do have kids that come and go, and we'll be doing the same thing next year with our monitors, that the students, when they do leave, will have to be buzzed to get back in, and so at the time during lunch, we have our hall monitors, our security people, and our deans outside supervising the students, and so in that manner, we're hoping to keep the kids from leaving the campus and new kids from entering the campus.
And I should add that we have one door for students to leave and to come back into the schools, and that door is monitored by a hall monitor during the day.
Justin Berry, student at Auburn High School, senior at Auburn High School, what is your feeling in regard to the effectiveness of a closed or open campus in regard to this particular issue?
Well, closed campus is what the students I talk to, they pretty much don't like it because they can't leave for lunch and come back. But there is a problem with people leaving and coming back because they may bring intruders or people from different schools in, or they may not come back at all and lose their chance at an education at school.
Justin, let's also address the situation of having officers on campus. Students' reaction in regard to that, they feel safer or they feel it's an invasion?
Most students I talk to, they feel safer because of the cops at Auburn, they are scanning the halls at all times when we are in class or either in lunch or no matter what time, they're scanning the halls and looking over and making sure that everything is okay.
I would assume over the last several years that the collaboration between local law enforcement and school officials has grown closer in regard to this particular issue. Let me open this up to the entire panel or anyone from the audience. When it comes to assessing the problem in your schools or monitoring that problem, who is best suited for that? Who has direct control? Does it come down to the school administrator or principal of that school or the officer on campus?
I could probably answer that. The principal of the school is in charge of the building. And in the Rockford Public Schools, the officers that we work with on a daily basis, we work in collaboration with them. We have a good working relationship with the Rockford Police Department. We meet quarterly with their administrative staff and our administrative staff. This Friday and next Friday, there's joint training sessions with their officers who work in the schools and Rockford Public School staff to make sure that there's an understanding of both sides' needs and how we would work together jointly. So when it comes to making decisions for the building, it does rest with the building principal, but most principals that I know have such a good working relationship with the officers in charge. It's a collaborative effort. But the final decision is made by the principal, unless the issue is one of city code, and at that time, the officer in charge would take command of the situation.
Ladies and gentlemen of the panel, are we, in light of the present situation, in light of what has happened, as I mentioned, over the last 5 years, 113 school shootings in the United States, resulting in 148 casualties, is nothing to sneeze at, but are we, at least on a local level, perhaps making a mountain out of a molehill? Nancy, you want to address that?
I would like to address the issue of this fine line between having a panel like this, which is wonderful to be able to discuss it, but sometimes we have to be careful about not contributing to a fear factor by how things are presented in the media, and that has to be considered when we talk about some of these issues, that we make sure that we have a panel and some different opinions and people that can give a nice balanced picture of what's going on in the schools. I'm glad to have students here, but having fear factor blown up in the media can be a problem.
So you think it's got to be a fine balancing act?
Right, I think we have to accept the reality that we need to be prepared, but there is a fine line between developing too much of a fear factor, especially as we have kids going off to school right now, and the ones entering middle school and high school are pretty nervous anyway, so we have to be sure that we give them a reasonable viewpoint about things.
Let's return back to our audience and 13 News reporter and anchor Ann Johnson. Ann?
Mike, expanding on your question, I would ask the students on our panel, do you feel like the added security measures, being checked every way in and out, closed campus, maybe these drills for emergencies, does that plant fear? Does that give you ideas? Do you think that gives other kids ideas about acting violently, or does that just make you afraid?
Let's allow Candace to answer that first. Candace Berryman, junior at Harlem High School. Candace?
Well, with the closed campus, Harlem has that. It makes it feel it's safe. We can't go outside of school for lunch, but not given the opportunity, so we don't really know what we're missing, but it's not too bad. We have cameras outside where it helps with the monitoring. Our ID card, that when we are given the opportunity to go outside for lunch, if we have the pride, make it on a roll. It's all checked, processed, signatures. But students, I don't think that they would want to make an outburst just because they're feeling looked or feeling intimidated by a superior, but it's not too bad.
Justin Berry, you have something to add to that?
I think by the drills and everything, that does make students feel more safe, but that some students do actually talk about it and some are joking around, but you can't really tell which is which. But it does give the students and me personally more of a safe feeling, because you'll know what to do and what happens, and know what to do if something out of the ordinary happens.
Mike Noble, do you think the students readily understand the concerns of the adults and supervisors that are responsible for their care?
I think they understand their concern. Our faculty speaks a lot with our students about violence, and they discuss it on a regular basis, especially with as many incidents that have happened over the past couple of years. But they try to get them to understand that the students themselves need to be the police of their high school or at any school. They need to be the ones that work with their peers to help them control what goes on in that building and give them some leadership and power to make the call with their fellow students, so they have the opportunity to have a safe school. And if they can enforce that and get the students to understand that it's okay to go and talk to other people about someone else in the school that's having a problem, that's going to be a much safer school. And so I think the students understand that violence is and can happen. You just never know when it's going to happen.
Dave Rossi, you mentioned that there's some upcoming training sessions, particularly for administrators and teachers. Are students involved in any of these training classes? Are they going to be given a better understanding of what to look out for and what they might expect in the upcoming year?
Yeah, each school in the Rockford school system in the first week or so of school has some sort of discipline orientation for their students. And specifically, all the issues in the discipline code are discussed and explained. At our school at Eisenhower, we go to great lengths to not only explain what the discipline code says, but how to react to certain situations. It's one thing telling a student what the code is, it's another thing giving them options of what the appropriate response would be. For instance, if somebody approaches them in a hostile manner, exactly what should they do to avoid the problem. The key in the schools is teaching kids to be proactive, communicate with teachers, and give kids avenues to get assistance or to make the adults in the building aware that a problem may occur.
Thank you, David. We appreciate the response of our panelists. We also appreciate the questions from the audience. We'll be taking more of those, as well as looking at possible solutions to this problem when we continue with our reality check, Violence in Our Schools, after this.
By a grand. That's the Brian Bemis way. Our prices on over 100 Dodge trucks are better by a grand. $1,000 better. You can own a Dodge Ram pickup for $1,000 less at Brian Bemis. Just $12,995. $12,995 for a Dodge Ram pickup from Brian Bemis. Dodge Ram Club Cab is just $16,995. That's better by a grand. In fact, you can save an additional $1,000 or more on over 400 cars, trucks, and vans during the Brian Bemis Better by a Grand sale going on now.
Annual meetings, regional sales meetings, quarterly company meetings, strategic planning sessions, internet demonstrations. The NIU Rockford Education Center's 250-seat auditorium is the ideal location to accommodate your weekday meetings or training sessions. Ideal for high-tech presentations, the auditorium features a 12-foot display screen with full audio-visual capabilities, adjustable lighting, and comfortable seating. The NIU Rockford Education Center Auditorium. Call 332-7339 to schedule your next meeting.
I just want to celebrate, yeah, yeah. The right tools make the job that much easier. So celebrate a job well done in a new Ford F-150. Now, during the Ford authorized clearance, get 4.9% financing on every '99 F-150 in stock, including the Super Cab with 4-door standard. F-150, built Ford tough.
I just want to celebrate.
Celebrate the move up to F-150. Now, during the Ford authorized clearance at your local Ford store.
This Friday, starting at 8 a.m., all Kohl's stores are having a grand opening sale to celebrate the opening of our newest Kohl's stores. Save on your favorite brands of denim and khaki. Save on all women's coordinates. Save on all kids' name brand playwear and on all kids' shoes. Save on all picture frames. Save on all your favorite brands. And get bonus buys through Monday at Kohl's grand opening sale starting Friday at 8 a.m.
Kohl's.
Welcome back to this 13 WREX Register Star Special Reality Check, Violence in Our Schools. But we appreciate you tuning in this evening, and we appreciate everybody who's been here this evening. Our last segment will deal with possible solutions, but before we get to that, one audience member approached me during the break. We seem to be concentrating primarily in regard to talking about this issue as it pertains to junior and senior high schools. However, we have seen evidence that it can happen at the grade school level. And I'll address this to Richard Sens from Belvedere, what can be done at that particular level, and should something be done at that particular level to address this problem as well as at the higher levels of grades?
We're treating all of our buildings in a similar fashion. All the buildings will be locked down. All of the staff members will receive the same in-service program. All of the students will go through the same drills. And of course, the curriculum that we teach during this time will be geared to meet the needs of the age of the students. And along with that, we're doing a lot with the community, with the police department, and with parents. So we're doing everything that we can at each level.
There seems to be, however, a question of comprehension, Mike Noble, when it comes to that particular level. We assume that students at a middle or high school level can comprehend the inherent dangers of having any violence break out on their campus. Can students at a grade school level do that as well?
I think our students are starting to learn more and more about that because it's becoming more noticeable on TV. The families are talking about it. The faculty and staff are talking about it. They're not afraid to talk about it with the youngsters. As Dr. Sens pointed out, the drills that will be taking place with the students at the elementary level, the curriculum that's going to be introduced, the violence prevention curriculum, it's all going to lead to hopefully a safer school. So they're going to get an understanding. The reason this is in place is because there is violence out there, and hopefully by starting even at the kindergarten level with a curriculum that as you go through the system, they're going to have a better way of dealing with problems and dealing with their peers and dealing with trouble, rather than going and fighting and doing something that would hurt someone.
Speaking of curriculum and teaching our students, we'll go back to our audience for a question from an audience member. Let's go to Ann Johnson. Ann?
Mike, along the lines of violence prevention, there are a lot of ways to go. Jim Peterson has a question about what we should teach students about guns. Jim?
Yes, I'd like to ask this of the administrators, and then I'd also like to have the two students' opinions. We know what happened in Colorado and Georgia, and that Mike mentioned there are 113 incidents of violence in schools with guns. Do you think that school districts in general have a responsibility, or there's a role for them to teach students or to inform students about the violence that guns can cause, the mishandling of guns, the damage that you can do by just picking up a gun and playing with it? Do school districts have a role in increasing students' awareness of the violence that guns can cause?
Let's begin with the students, since the question is also directed at them. Candace Berryman, Harlem High School. Candace?
Well, to a certain extent, I see how the schools have responsibility, but something has to start in the home and influence where they can understand and grasp the concepts, young age to older. If they don't feel it's important at a young age on, there's only so much you can change someone's opinion. But.
Justin Berry?
I agree with Candace. The teaching of guns should start in the home, because if a kid can be easily influenced by their parents, because if you see a young kid and their parents are playing around with guns or keep guns in the house unlocked, then a kid could easily get to it and think it's all right to just carry it around and take it to school, and they may not know it's loaded, but if they pull that trigger, it's gonna be not good.
Dave Rossi, how about having a curriculum whereby students learn the finer points and the deadlier points of weaponry?
Well, I think the message is getting out regarding weapons at school. And just in the newspaper in the last couple of days, there's been a reduction of 1/3 nationally of the incidents where students are expelled in schools for bringing weapons. So I think starting in elementary school, the message is there, whether it's a gun, a knife, or any sort of weapon, it just doesn't belong at school. I think what we need to be doing and are doing is taking the conflict resolution, conflict mediation curriculums and getting them instituted in some of our classes, either through elective choices or programs in the elementary, so kids learn how to work out the problems, talk out their problems, instead of start swinging when somebody looks the wrong way at you. And I think this is really important that we start at an early age.
Thank you, Dave. Another question from our audience, Eric Wilson.
Mike, I'm here with a Freeport school parent, Steve Glaze, and Steve has a question along the same lines of responsibility.
I'd like to address the question to the two students on the panel first, and then I'd also like to get Nancy's opinion on this as well. What do you believe, students, the responsibility is of the parents in the home to help curb or actually eradicate violence in schools?
Justin Berry?
I believe that a parent should teach their kids that guns are not meant to be played with or toyed with, that guns shouldn't be kept in a home personally with a young child around, especially with a young child around. But if there's a older junior high school or high school child in the home, then you need to sit down and talk with that child and tell them that, you know, guns are not to be played with, and anything can happen with a gun, and a bullet can go anywhere and shoot anybody, and you will be charged for that offense.
Candace Berryman, is this something that your parents make a point to teach you about?
Yeah, it's been talked about in the home, pretty much how it goes along with the news, and it's not just basically concentrated on the guns, but pretty much how you let your emotions go out, and how you express yourself with what you feel about what's going on in your daily environment. Talk about that, and how you handle things, not just bottle everything up, just be able to keep the line of talking open, and just keep that door open to handle things.
Nancy Kelchbrenner, obviously the scope of this question is teaching the students about the safety and the importance of not dealing with guns. Let's expand that and just talk about in general terms what the parents' responsibility in regard to this issue is.
Well, I think parents, as has been talked about so much on this panel, we've talked about the parents, the community, the collaborative, the responsibility that we all have, and that it has to be a community-wide kind of a thing, and this kind of dialogue is really important. I know in my household, after the incident in Littleton and some other incidents, it was on the news, and we talked about it quite a bit. But a lot of parents are so uncomfortable, and people in the community are uncomfortable, the more we have a lot of different groups and organizations talking about it, that it will just help the kids in school to understand what's going on, help them to learn to take responsibility. Certainly they see what we do and how we treat each other. We've got campaigns going on in our town that would celebrate diversity and not in our town and things like that. I think these are all part of the big picture about how we treat each other and how the community has to react to these things that are important to help everyone have dialogue about these issues.
Sergeant Dave Hooks, school liaison with the Rockford Police Department, you get the chance to talk to the students each and every day. In your estimation, are parents taking the responsibility to deal with this issue with their children?
Yes, the vast majority of the students that I speak with, it's quite obvious that their parents are involved. We have conferences. You see them coming to the ball games with the students, the interaction between the students and the parents that's highly visible in the schools. So I see that they're involved quite a bit.
We've talked about the fact that some steps are being taken in each one of the respective school districts represented here this evening, but obviously there is a problem that exists, and it's not something that's going to be brought to a resolution overnight. To Mike Noble from the Freeport School District, in your estimation, what more needs to be done, not only in Freeport but overall?
Well, you know, that's a tough question, because a lot needs to still be done, because every time there's a shooting, that's one more shooting, you know, whether it's one student or 13 students or individuals as a whole. That there needs to be more education, there needs to be more control of weapons, there needs to be, you know, access to weapons. In the last 3 years, we've had 3 suicides in our district with kids for access to weapons and coming out of the home, and that's scary. And so when you have that and it's out there and you see that, then it's a reality check to know that kids can get a hold of weapons. And so I think that's one of the big things that we still need to go after, is that education of weapons and really teaching kids to, once again, I go back to you know, communicating amongst themselves. They've got to support one another, because as many faculty members as there are, or police in the schools, they need to help each other out and really be there to point their peers in the right direction if there's a problem.
Richard Sens from the Belvedere School District, there seems to be a renewed sense of responsibility and of working together when it comes to parents and administrators and teachers in regard to this issue. what is each person's responsibility, and is it equally shared, or where does most of the burden fall in regard to making sure we find solutions to this?
I think it all boils down to this lapel pin that I'm wearing here for Children First, that we all have the same philosophy in our district, and that's parents and students and faculty members, and we all place children first, and that we try to have an open line of communications between all three groups. And if we identify any problems that are going on in the home, that's shared with the schools, and vice versa, it's shared with the parents when there are problems in the home. So I think it's just or in the schools, excuse me. I think it's working together and trying to do whatever we can to place children first.
Let's bring the students in. Justin Berry, entering another school year, what do you see as being your responsibility as a student leader to try to help correct this problem?
I feel that more students are listening to more students more, because students that have been in those type of actions or been involved, they listen to them and realize that it is real and it could happen anywhere in the United States, and that it's really possible to happen.
We'll wrap up some of these thoughts when we continue and conclude this reality check, Violence in Our Schools. Stay with us.
And it's a reality check to know that kids can get a hold of weapons.
I just want to celebrate. The most important decisions in life are made with your head and your heart. Celebrate by making the right choice in a new Ford Taurus. Now, during the Ford Authorized Clearance, get 0.9% financing plus $1,000 cash back on a '99 Taurus. Low financing and cash back. Now that is smart.
I just want to celebrate. Yeah, yeah.
Celebrate by playing it smart during the Ford Authorized Clearance at your local Ford store.
This Friday, starting at 8 a.m., all Kohl's stores are having a grand opening sale to celebrate the opening of our newest Kohl's stores. Save on your favorite brands of denim and khaki. Save on all women's coordinates. Save on all kids' name brand playwear and on all kids' shoes. Save on all picture frames. Save on all your favorite brands. And get bonus buys through Monday at Kohl's grand opening sale starting Friday at 8 a.m.
Your price is better by $1,000 when you buy from Brian Bemis right now. That's right, $1,000 better at Brian Bemis. That means you can own a Chevy fleet-side pickup for a super low $94.99. That's a new Chevy pickup for well under $10,000. Plus, we've increased discounts on Blazers and Bravadas to a record $6,300 off. $6,300 off. In fact, you can save an additional $1,000 or more on over 400 cars, trucks, and vans during the Brian Bemis Better Buy $1,000 sale going on now.
In the old Southwest, folks sure knew how to have an exciting night out. They still do. Tumbleweed. Fun, friends, and the flavor of the old Southwest.
Don't even think about it.
East State Street near Circuit City.
Welcome back to Reality Check, Violence in Our Schools, a 13 WREX Rockford Register Star special. We return to our audience for a few final questions as we wrap up this program. Ann Johnsos.
Mike, I'm back with Trooper Brad Flores, who has another question about finding a solution.
For the school personnel, what programs might be in place or possibly in the planning for the student that is a problem, has been recognized, but before they're suspended, is there any programs in place to help them, whether it's with classwork, build up their esteem? Is there something that's within the schools? Because we're going to have not all the students are going to get the help at home that they need.
Why don't we begin, and I think Nancy Kelchbrenner would probably like to address that first, especially in regard to the Support Our Students program.
Well, we have some things that are going on in the community, and one of them is to try to bring more mentors in the community. And I think as we bring more of the community into our schools, they set, as I said before, an example of how to lead life and responsibility, and these kind of people. One of our goals is to have every child have an advocate. For most of the children, it would be a parent. But for many of our children, they have no one that they can talk to, confide in, and would be an advocate for them and help them before they get into some serious trouble. That's the kind of program that we're working on within the community.
Eric Wilson is also in our audience. You have another question, Eric?
Mike, I'm here with Pat Bailey, who has a daughter in Rockford Middle Schools, and she has a question for some of the panel members.
Yes. My question is, I've already addressed this issue with the principal of the school, and apparently what's being done at the school is not working. We have a security person on the campus at school, and also the teachers also monitor the halls, and obviously there's still a problem occurring with violence in the halls. My daughter's very afraid of going into the halls. A lot of times she's reported to me that there are girls beating on other girls, and I've addressed this situation with the principal, and he didn't really seem very overly anxious to deal with the situation at hand, and I am very upset about this. And one of the comments that one of the teachers made, and I'm not giving any names, but he said the fights are better out in the halls than they are at the fights. And I want to know, my question is, what other means can we do better to have a safer environment for our children?
Dave Rossi, you want to begin with that?
I'll try to answer that. Nationally, when they do the surveys of what parents want out of schools for 10, 15 years, the number one answer was a quality education. 4 to 5 years ago, that changed, and the number one request of parents from schools is, I want my kid to be safe at school. Quality education is now second. Most principals that I'm aware of understand that concept and understand that the climate they create in their building has to be one where every student is safe. I can't talk about specifics, and I'm not sure which school you're referring to, but I know there are avenues to get your needs met at that school. If your needs are not getting met on the site, there's in central office, there are options for you there to get something taken care of. But I can talk on behalf of all the principals in the Rockford school system when I say that security, climate, and safety are our number one concern for everybody's child.
Let me ask a follow-up question in regard to Sergeant Dave Hooks. Obviously, having an officer patrolling a campus can't be everywhere at one time. How do you handle a situation in regard to the fact that someone perhaps saying that things are going unnoticed or things are not being adequately addressed?
Well, one of the things we try to do with our officers in the schools is to be proactive with the students. So if in fact there is going to be a problem or could be a problem, we try and get information to the officers so we can bring the conflicting sides together and make some type of conflict resolution out of the incident.
One part of the equation, I think, as far as our solutions are concerned, also has to be community centers, and that's why I wanted Jim Peterson to address this particular issue as president of Northwest Community Center. There's plenty of community centers within the community, Jim. You and those of representatives of other community centers are trying to do their part in this situation as well, correct?
Yes, I think if you really want a reality check, we just have to see what happened yesterday in California, where someone walked into a community center and shot a bunch of children up. And I was talking to some of my colleagues today that we all are very much concerned that we are very vulnerable to any kind of violence that can happen to any of us at any time. I think what community centers are trying to do is, through some of our after-school programs and our recreational opportunities, is to give children a safe environment before and after school, so that any kind of activity that we have is prevention-based. I think that the more that we can provide space and opportunity for kids to go to be in a safe, clean environment during non-school hours, the better off our community is going to be. But we are very vulnerable, as we saw in the news yesterday in California.
Jim, we appreciate you being here and appreciate your comments. We have one final question from the audience. Eric Wilson.
Mike, I'm here with Martin Sarver, and Martin has a question now.
I wondered, Mr. Sins, if you'd made provision for, if you let students in through one goal and secured the other doors, there's a possibility of a student rushing to some other door and letting someone in that shouldn't be there.
There's that possibility. We will have other security cameras throughout the school, and we've employed hall monitors to be in the hallways and to address concerns like that.
I'd like to make one final observation this evening and present a question to our entire panel. Obviously, another part of this equation is getting the community involved. And while 13 WREX and Rockford Register-Star was hopeful of having a big crowd for this evening's forum, we obviously didn't quite accomplish that. What do you see as being the community's responsibility as a whole, and how can we get them motivated to, first of all, recognize this issue and help in finding solutions to it? And I'll open that up to anybody on the panel. Mike Noble?
That's a good question, because we have that same problem, getting community members to be a part of this this issue and coming and helping solving it in the Freeport School District. We have a number of parents that serve on our district discipline committee and help to write the discipline code for the school. But when an incident happens, everybody gets alarmed and everybody wants to jump and they want to make sure things are being done. But 2 months from that point, then all of a sudden it calms down, and then I'm sure it happens in other districts. The parents aren't there to work again with the school, and they're left with making the decisions again. So I think it's something that you need to work with. We're working with our police department, our community centers, of getting our parents to those places, working with them, and establishing a good communication where we're meeting regularly with those people so they can stay on board and we don't lose them.
Anyone wish to add anything else? Thank you very much. On that note, we will conclude this reality check, Violence in Our Schools. Thanks to our panel members this evening. Thanks to those of you who participated from the audience this evening. On behalf of the staff and management of 13 WREX and the Rockford Register-Star, we want to thank NIU for Education Center for allowing us to be here this evening. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found tonight's program informative and helpful. Good night.